Are you sensing something a little fishy about your manga? Did you ever read a physical copy and then compare it to some online scans and realize there's a big difference between the publisher and the original story intent? Do you ever wonder if the story you're reading is exactly like the one that Japanese fans get? Everyone, it's Carrie, aka Nerdygirlcreates. Welcome back to my channel. And today we have a special video, and we're going to talk about some allegations that have been brewing across the internet recently, and it has to do with manga. Now, without a doubt, manga is in its golden age right now. You can go almost anywhere and pick up manga. They're in Target, they're in Barnes and Noble, they're everywhere. You can go Amazon, you can even go to some online sites where they'll give you deals. Manga has multiple genres. It's not just superheroes, it's not just Dragon Ball. Manga has something for everyone. You want cooking, you want LGBT romance, you want horror, manga has it for you. Now, something occurred to me. There's a lot of people jumping onto the manga bandwagon, but I don't think they realize a lot of the issues that have been circulating lately. And one of these big allegations have to do with a publisher called Seven Seas Entertainment. Now, for those who don't know who Seven Seas is, they're an award-winning publisher that specializes in bringing the best of Japan and other countries' manga, manhwa, light novels, etc. to the English language. They were formed in 2004 by Jason DeAngels, and they say they are now the number one independently owned manga publisher in the English market. They have a bunch of well-known mangas that they have adapted, such as The Ancient Magnus Bride, Kamen Rider, Lupin the Third, Space Battle Yamada, and so much more. However, recently on Twitter, I noticed a bunch of fans who like to do their own translations complaining about the translators at Seven Seas. Now, before we get started, I want to state up front, this has nothing to do with politics, agendas. You might like or not like the subject matter of some of these stories. That is not the point of this video. We are here to talk about alleged censorship. And I always suggest that you do your own investigations. I am just going to give you what I found and also show you what I have found on the internet that other people have said. Now, Seven Seas recently published a story, or I should say adapted a manga series called I Think I Turned My Childhood Friend Into a Girl. And it focuses on two male leads. One of them is dreaming of becoming a cosmetic wonder. And he always wants to practice his cosmetic skills, so he talks his very awkward male best friend into letting him do makeup on him. Unfortunately, things get a little strange when that friend decides he likes dressing up like a girl and starts attending school in girls' clothing. The other friend finds himself very much attracted to his best friend. Now, I invited my friend Bianca from Myself in Comics on to talk about this. Now, Bianca, if you haven't checked out her channel, I will have a link down below. She is a huge manga fan, and she is one of those who likes to really delve deep and investigate the manga she's reading, because she wants to make sure she's getting the best quality story and the best translations possible. So I invited her on my channel to talk about I Think I Turned My Childhood Friend Into a Girl, present some of the findings I discovered, as well as talk about a few other things involving Seven Seas. Recently, they were called out by some fans for their translation for a romantic comedy series called I Think I Turned My Childhood Friend Into a Girl. And the allegations are stating that the English translation is misgendering one of the characters. So I decided I was going to look into this to see if this was true. Now, for those who don't know, the manga focuses on two young men. One, Kenshiro, and Bianca, you can always correct me if I'm not pronouncing right because I suck at pronouncing things. He is into cosmetics and he wants to practice applying it. So he asks his male friend Hiro to let him do it, and he ends up liking the changes being made to him. Well, in the English translations from Seven Seas, they are referring to the character of Hiro, right? Is that how I said it? Hira?
That's honestly the English
Hiura.
pronunciation of it. Like,
Yeah,
if you want to say it with the Japanese pronunciation, it's hiro. But if you're going to say it in the
Hiro.
English way,
Okay.
it's hero.
Okay. Well, Hiro is being in the Seven Seas translations, they're saying that they are transgender. But according to fans who've actually translated the Japanese work, they said no, they still identify as a male. Now, Bianca, have you looked at any of this stuff
I haven't
that I
read it
sent you?
personally, but I'm like, this
Okay.
sounds super interesting, so I'm gonna look it up. I'm looking it up right now. Apparently, it's not even hero.
Ah,
It's
see, I told
spelled.
you, I suck at this.
Well, no, like the way this is spelled, it's Hiura. So it's
Oh,
Hiura. Oh
see, this is
gosh,
why I
how would
have
you
you
say
here.
that with the English accent? Hira? Hira?
Oh God,
Hira?
I know, I suck. I suck.
Yeah, so it's like
But
u ra.
mhm.
Hiura. You want to try it?
He grew I'm like listening to you, and I'm thinking I'm gonna screw this up so badly. So
Hiura ra.
he you ra he
Yes.
you ra.
He
Well,
hoorah. That's honestly what it is. He hoorah.
this is why I have Bianca here. Now, what I did, Bianca, is I asked two people to translate the Japanese text. And one of them is a friend of mine who just happens to kind of like translate Japanese on his own. He's not a
Teach
professional
me.
translator, but right, the other person is a professional translator. So this is one scene from the manga. I had to blur it out because they're going to copyright and take down the video if I don't. And this whole scene he's translating is talking about like the girl or the boy is trying to like play with his shirt, and his friend gets upset and says to him, it's a bit transparent. You should be more aware of the fact that you look like a girl. And this is the translation for the professional. Now, my friend, who just happens to just do it for fun, says she's not being told to act like a girl, but to pay attention to her appearance. Um, says the preceding panels could be important. The implication is the character is not a female per se. However, it could also work in the context of a girl not paying attention to her appearance. As he says, nuance is everything in Japanese. Now, this is the Seven Seas translation. Yes, her friend says, you can see right through your shirt. If you're going to be a girl, try acting like one.
Isn't that kind of
So what
sexist,
are your
right?
I know, really. So what are your thoughts on this, Bianca, besides sexism?
Like, honestly, like what that person says, obviously, like nuances in Japan is incredibly important. Like, you can, like, there's so many things that even sound the same, but you have to say it in
Mhm,
a different way, or else you can mean something
mhm,
else. Like, I just learned hana and hana, like, they're spelled the same way in English, but they mean completely different things from how you say it. So whether you say
right.
it with one or the other, you could but meaning the opposite. Like, you can butcher up that language. You can butcher up what you're saying, you know. But like something like this, and I'm like, but how? How do you get something like this wrong? And then you add something sexist to it.
I know. It's
Like,
like, you're
this
going to be a
is
girl. Try acting like one.
Like I know this series is considered in this is a Japanese word by the way. I'll explain it after. This is in otokonoko series, which is like which usually means like male daughter or male girl, which is a Japanese term for men who have culturally feminine gender expression, like cross dressing as like
Okay.
as one of them, you know, and
But
it's
not
like this is not transgender,
right.
correct?
That's what I was going to ask. Right. So not transgender. Now here's another scene where the character goes to school for the first time dressed as a girl. And the teacher is trying to kind of like explain that to everybody. So the professional translator has this. So with that, from today on, I'm going to let you say that name, is going to come to school with this outfit. Everyone, please be kind. Hi there, everyone. Everybody's shocked. And then they say the name of the character because they're surprised that they're dressed like this.
Hyuna!
Thank you. Thank you. Now, my friend's translation is not too far off. He says the teacher, it could be Mrs. He says terms of address are gender neutral. Is the teacher has to specifically tell the class that the classmate will be coming to school in this appearance henceforth. The funny thing is that the gender identity in Japan, which is often fluid, dependent on one's class or occupation. I do not think this applies to peasantry, but actors, monks, samurai were all pretty odd by Western standards.
Correct.
So in panel 6, so that is why it has been decided that we'll come to school with this appearance starting today. Nice to meet you all. And then the character replies to everyone, nice to meet you. So that's true,
Ah.
pretty much. Again, it's like a cultural difference, right?
And
What
that's
we
probably why
might
instead of using feminine or masculine terms, they just use gender neutral because they probably aren't sure of how to address the person if they're comfortable with still being called masculine or feminine because they're still a boy but they're just dressed as a girl.
gotcha. Now this is the Seven Seas translation.
Oh
Before we
no.
begin, the teacher says, starting today, this is how we'll be presenting. Make sure she feels welcome. And then she goes, nice to meet everyone again. Now that's
They should
different
have.
from the other two translations.
It's a more simpler. It's more
Mm-hmm.
simple than the longer version, which I usually do understand sometimes if they're like, okay, this is a lot of crap, let's just make it shorter. But then, and because if they actually know what they're doing, they know that what they said is gender neutral, so they should have put they feel welcome instead of she feels welcome. But I guess they
Exactly.
decided to take advantage of that and put she instead of they because they want to do the whole, oh, we want this for the trans people, but the person's not trans, so it's like you're being disingenuous.
Exactly. Now, in the next sequence, she or he is playing basketball with other boys, and the boys are kind of annoyed with him because he's not very physically capable. He's kind of like behind everybody else in uh, the class. So the professional translator put this: "It's way too hard with other boys, so I'm doing physical ed class with the girls." And the translator says they specifically say other boys here, which implies that they themselves see themselves as a boy. So then they go on, even though it's already a bit embarrassing to be amongst girls. And the friend says, come on, come on. And he goes, well, there's nothing I can do. So then this one, my friend, is pretty much similar. It's really hard for you to beat other guys, so go to the girls' PE class instead.
That
So
doesn't make
they're,
any sense.
no. And but he also confirms that the character goes on to say they're uncomfortable being around a group of girls, but I guess it can't be helped. So then we go to the Seven Seas translation. You just can't beat us guys. I still feel weird mixed in with a bunch of girls. And then the friend just says, keep trying your best, instead of, I guess it can't be helped. What are your thoughts,
Mhm.
Bianca?
That's a like I know what I said about making things shorter, but at least put in the crap that actually is important.
I
Like
know.
saying, hey, I can't do well with the guys, so I joined the girls, even
Yeah.
though it kind of makes me uncomfortable, you know? That's something like that. That was
Mhm.
short. You can fit that, what I said, into that bubble. Short, simple, sweet, but still, it keeps the translation. It's at least the most accurate. Uh, why they took out so much stuff.
I know it's kind of like you're kind of, and then we're going to get into this later with something else where you're kind of like taking out a lot that you can almost change the plot the way you're going.
I
You're
can't wait.
like, I know. All right, so this next scene is the friend is kind of shocked at the appearance of his other friend, like a girl. And the one is like kind of like flashing back to this moment. It goes, the moment I transferred to look like a girl, my childhood friend's behavior clearly became very strange. This is the professional translator. Now, my friend also put my childhood. Oh, sorry. As soon as I metamorphosed into the appearance of a girl, and he says here appearance of a girl, not into a girl, my childhood friend's behavior has changed unexpectedly, becoming strange, and said super weird is an exaggeration. So we go to Seven Seas. Ever since I came out as a girl, my
Oh,
childhood friend has been super weird.
oh. You
You
couldn't
okay,
even
Bianca?
say ever since I dressed up as a girl instead. But
Right.
no, I obviously came out. When did you come out? When did this come out happen? Hi, I'm
Uh,
coming out, by the way. It's not just the dresses and stuff. I want to be more than that. Like, oh. Next thing you don't
which I
know, they'll be
understand is
adding
never implied.
stuff. Like, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but they'll add something sometimes out of nowhere, like, by the way, I'm gonna get surgery for a cross dresser.
So, like, in your thoughts, just from these, from what I've shown you, it's pretty much, it's not a, like, say, cultural misunderstanding, in your opinion. Does this seem more like somebody trying to force something in here that's not there?
Yes, definitely. It's not as I mean, yes, translating is actually super hard,
Mhm.
but it's not that hard to say, "Hey, here's the accurate translation. Put this in there. Copy and paste what the heck I just did." But like this is completely changing. It's changing everything. It's taking out stuff that matters or just like rearranging them. And so if you
Mhm.
know the material already, you're just going to get confused. And if somebody is learning translation and they saw this, but they already know some stuff, they can rather like trust their own judgment and be like, "Yes, this is wrong," or they can be like, "I'm super confused. I guess I need more studying. I guess I suck."
And I think this is why you see a lot of people on social media complaining about what they call localization,
Yes.
and a lot of people wanting preferred Japan to get their own interpreters and interpret it themselves. Do you think that would alleviate this type of issue?
I hope so. I would hope so it does because there are some like types of localization that I'm like, okay, since this fits in the context or whatever, I will allow it. But then there's stuff like this, and I'm like, no, like I at least will do like good types of localization and changing of the scripts, but nothing like this where you're deleting the person, changing the person into something else, and other stuff that actually matters.
'Cause I've seen it not just with manga, I've also seen some complaints with anime that's happening as well. Like, I think there was recently, season 2 of, Tiger and Bunny on Netflix. They
No,
were complaining about a s Yes, yes! They were complaining about a
no.
scene where what's her name? Blue Rose and the other guy with the blonde hair who's always kinda, like, being a
The
jackass
Sky
around
High
her.
guy. No,
Uh,
Bunny. Are you talking about the guy who plays Bunny?
no, 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 no. The blonde guy, Ryan,
Oh, okay. I think that's Sky
Golden
High
Ryan.
with a fat
Yeah,
golden retriever.
or no, no. He's not the problem. The Golden Ryan, the one who's like arrogant,
Oh, the
and she
new
gets
guy.
forced to
Shoot,
team with him. Yeah, yeah. So there's a whole sequence, and somebody had translated this too, where they're sitting in the car, and he kind of feels bad for kind of like stepping in and underestimating her abilities as a superhero. And like in the original, what they said from the Japanese thing was he was just kind of apologizing for being a jackass and getting in the way. In the Netflix one, it went something along the lines where he started to proclaim himself a male feminist and that he's seen the wrongs of his ways. And I was just like, what?
uh that's
I
that's
know.
stuff I hate. I hate it so much because it's not
I know.
necessary. You could have said you were an egalitarian. I think that's how you pronounce it. The word is too long. Ugh.
Now, what's funny with this with Seven Seas, they did issue a statement after people went all over Twitter after them. And they said, in response to fans' concerns, Seven Sea has thoroughly reviewed our English language translation of I Think I Turned My Childhood Friend Into a Girl, Volume 1. The subject matter in this book is delicate, and we took every effort to keep the language respectful and inclusive. However, after discussing the matter with the rights holder, we realized that our edition differs in certain details from the author's intent. So it sounds like the original mangaka got involved, or at least their publisher.
And I think that they should be getting more involved into their stuff.
Yeah, and I would love to know like the legal side of it because so far what I've found is it doesn't seem like they have a lot of protection when they license over here.
Yeah, I
I
saw
think
that.
they should.
I think they
Yeah.
should as well. There should be some like at least a suspension or something. Here's a suspension, and what you're gonna do is that you're gonna study, give you homework as punishment. Like they do that with anime. Like sometimes the original mangakas will be in the well, not sometimes in the actual US studio, but sometimes they'll be talking back and forth through like electronic devices or whatever to get their feedback on stuff, which I usually would prefer because that's honestly,
Mhm.
honesty is the best policy. Hey, I want to do this, and if they're be like, "Yeah, cool," or "No," then you should be respecting their wishes.
Almost wish you had somebody from the publisher in Japan consulting with Seven Seas or whatever other publishers doing the translation here. Especially if there's like a cultural difference, so there could be like an explanation. Well, see over here, they might see it like this. So there's more involvement from both sides.
Yes, no more rice ball jelly donuts.
Oh God, I will never forget that. So the statement goes on. With that in mind, we will be revising the English script of this series to address various concerns and to more accurately reflect the original intent of the creator. This revised translation will be available in the reprints of Volume 1, and the translations for future volumes will be handled by a collaborative translation team to ensure a faithful and accurate translation of the original work. Sounds like maybe they are getting involved. We're sorry for any confusion or stress caused by our first printing of Volume 1, and we thank you for your passion as we bring this complex and wonderful manga series to English speaking audiences. Now I'm going to drop the bomb. While they were doing this, there's another series they have, and the English translation for the series is The Dangers in My Heart. And now I
Oh,
didn't
that sounds
get
so
my
cheesy.
friends, yeah, I didn't get my friends to do the translation for this, but this is somebody had translated. On the left is the fan translation, and then on the right is the Seven Seas. Now, down below, you're going to see a part where the guy next to where it says -15, there's a guy talking to somebody and they're going over like somebody's fashion choice. And he goes, bizarre fashion theory. On the other side, it says, I mansplain fashion.
Bizarre fashion theory and mansplained fashion are not even equivalent to each other. You can just be like, I think blue and green should be on clothes because I think they match very well, and stuff like that. And it could just be like your opinion. It can be in a terrible opinion. But yeah, that can be your opinion. Obviously, in this context, the guy is usually out with like a very popular girl, so the popular girl will be very into the popular trends and fashion, so she would obviously know stuff like that, and she would be like, "That's disgusting." And for me, who's somebody who doesn't know about that, I'd be like, "You know what? Wear what you want."
Yeah, and I think this guy is talking to a girl, and I guess that's why they thought it was mansplaining.
Yeah, which doesn't really mean anything. Like, you just said something weird about fashion or whatever. You're not
Yeah,
mansplaining. You're just saying, I
it's
think.
yeah, it's I don't even see how it even comes close. Like, everything else matches up with their translation except that one part.
Yeah, I was even like, you know what? Screw up points, cringe points. That's honestly pretty similar.
Mhm.
Oh man, oh crap. That's also the most similar thing here.
And also the part where it goes, "I said her mom was cute. I called her mom cute. I was a total stalker or looked like a stalker. I had her order for me. Had her order for me, so those are the same.
And I
I
lied
lied
about
about
not
not
liking
liking
sweet.
sweets." So that's like everything else is close, but for some weird reason they decided to go like way off with this fashion theory thing.
It's like it's always that one. Sometimes it's always that one little tiny thing where everything's is pretty much okay, and I'm like, okay, okay, I can accept this. What are you doing? Okay, okay. No. Overall, that was like a B minus. It could have been a
Yeah.
plus plus if it was the if you took out that if you redid the fashion line speak. But all in all, it was a relatively good translation. I will be coughing.
Yeah, that's okay. Now that another part of the same manga, and there's a bunch of different people who did their thing. For some reason, these English translators don't seem to like the word slave. As you can see in the Scanlation translation, the character's talking about a really hot girl, and he says, "Man, I sure want to have a chick that looks like Yamada as a sex slave." Another one down below says, "Aw, man, I sure want to make a chick like Yamada my sex slave." Seven Seas goes, "Ah, I'd love to get with Yamada."
That's not the
Like,
context though. He
no,
wants to there's like
yeah,
do more stuff than just get with her. Do they not know what a sex
exactly.
slave is?
Obviously, and I'm going to get into this later, something else that came up, but obviously they don't feel comfortable with that term. So this concerns me, and this is a good lead into the next thing we're going to talk about. Now, if everybody thinks this apology from Seven Seas is going to fix things, I want to take everybody a year back. There are two light novels, Class for the Elite, and I'm going to let you say that because I'm going to screw it up.
Mushok oh shoot, sorry, this this COVID thing is like messing with my throat right
I
now.
know,
Mushoku Tensei.
right? There were two volumes where they edited out, not just like we've been looking at here, where they changed things slightly. They took out paragraphs or completely changed plot points
That was like a short story they
because
just took out. Ploop.
I know. And for example, one of them, what was it? Do, 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 do. I'm in love with the villainous drew scrutiny because there was a section dealing with sexual assault and homophobia, and they completely like changed that. And the author of the light novel was actually very surprised and disappointed when fans told her about it. I mean, entire paragraphs dealing with the protagonist's reflection on internal homophobia was removed. Now, I don't know how that played into the entire story, but you're taking out like a huge chunk of material that might be playing into a plot.
Honestly, I will say that like so much like manga and light novels be adding some extra stuff in there, and I'm like, what does this have to do with
Okay.
anything? But you know, taking it and I can understand that they would want to take it out, but obviously that's not the reason they took it out. You know the reason why they took it out.
Yes, I know.
And it's
Because
not because this is not crucial to the story.
yeah, what was it? Shoki Tensei. There was a part, and this is where they got caught because the anime kept it in, and fans who don't translate notice the difference. Was the main character, the female, she was sleeping when a male character came over and started to pull off her pants and try to like grope her. They changed it to that he was just observing her and trying to pull her shirt over the stomach.
He was a gentleman all along, guys. Nothing bad happened here. He's not an a-hole. And I'm like, no, they're a-holes for a reason. Keep them as
Right.
a-holes.
And apparently, like, this comes back later on in the story where she's bringing up that he's always trying to do something to her, and they kept the cruder part in the anime, so people who read the light novel and then watched the anime went, but in the light novel, he's just, you know, putting her shirt down to make sure she
He's
doesn't
a
get
nice
exposed.
guy.
Why is he trying to rape her in the anime?
And like that's the problem. Like you think you're ruining, you're trying to defend this guy because you don't know, because you think
Right.
you're reading from an actual well translated source, and then you watch the anime and you're like, they ruined the source material. He was never like that in the original official source material. And then somebody's like, "Hi, Japanese person here. That light novel is translating incorrectly. He has done this in the light novel, and even worse." And then they're just have a shocked look on their face, like, "Oh my gosh, I defended a monster."
And the thing is, they went after them again, and Seven Seas did re-edit the books. I think they even took some of the older volumes back and exchanged them. I don't know for sure, but somebody told me that they were doing that.
I know a lot
But
of
I'm
them
like,
will be like they'll keep the original, but also put out the unedited version. And I'm like, well, no, there's no reason to do that. Just take away the edited version, you know, burn it with
hmm,
fire, have a little pit, you know, dance around it, and you know, just keep out the put out the unedited version. You know, just keep doing that. All fun, all games.
it's like I don't even have words because I'm sitting here going, as a consumer, I'm buying a story I think is being translated from the original manga story. And I'm getting something that's either slightly or maybe far more different than what they're reading over in Japan. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, like I think about that stuff like all the time, and not even that, but like Spanish translations too. Like I go on Netflix, I can watch like a Spanish show. I put on subtitles, and I'm like, what you said is not what they said. Oh my gosh!
Oh,
Like, you know how we have the word negro, which means
yeah.
black. My mom was watching this slave Spanish show. I guess it was happening in Spain or something. So it was like girl falling in love with like some slave guy. So slave guy decides to run away, and then guard loves the chase, so he chases after him, and he's like, "Hey, negro, negro!" And you know, when you translate that in English, it's like, "Hey, black, black," you know, and that sounds weird. but he's calling
Yeah.
like that's what we just call people. It could be mean, it could be nice. We can call you negrito or negrita as usually a form of endearment. Like my name's Bianca, so my dad will call me Bianquita. Um, and then, but for the subtitles, they put the N word with the hard R on it. And I'm like, okay, well, first of all, I've been hearing from a lot of whether Spanish only speakers or people who are bilingual that speak Spanish, have been telling me that they have private conversations, and then a black person would just be like passing by and they're talking about coffee or something, and they just like, yeah, I drink black coffee, tomar café negro, and then they would be surprised and just walk up on them and say, "What did you just say?" And I'm like, "Well, thank you for putting that translation because now you just made it worse." Like he was meaning it in a
Oh,
bad way
wow.
when he called him negro, but that's not what that means, and you're gonna be adding like people already think it's a bad word.
Oh, man. And that's right. The reason I wanted to look into it was to see, was it just maybe a misunderstanding because of cultural differences and everything? But as I read these translations from the two people and compared it to the Seven Seas one, I'm like, these are completely off. And then to hear about the light novel incident and to see that they're doing it again with another manga series, it's kind of like, what is it going to take before you realize people are going to stop buying your product, or creators are going to start demanding maybe using somebody else? I know it's probably going to take a lot for that to happen, but what do you think about that?
It is going to, take a lot to happen. I mean, like, people said that they were going to stop, you know, what's it called, watching Funimation because of some translation errors. But they're being morphed with Crunchyroll because now they're bought by like Sony, so they're kind of still alive. um, and
Yeah.
like so many other like what's it called companies say like same thing with them, they're still going on despite people like stopping. So I like obviously I feel like it's going to be like so many years until something like this
Yeah.
happens. Like I've never even bought from them, not one time.
It'd have
I'm pretty sure I have a
they'd
stack
have
of
to
manga but I don't have light novels.
I think they're gonna have to do something so seriously big that they get canceled over it.
Or sued.
That would Yeah, or sued, which
Like,
could
what if they
happen.
wanted to be
Just for
sued by an actual like mangaka or something like that? I mean, yeah, they don't have much money,
I
but what
know.
if they be like, "Hey, I can threaten you with a lawsuit. I can win, and that money that I could use for food and bills will be mine once I win."
Well, you know what's interesting? Some big news did come out of Japan recently. A manga creator ended up winning an election, and he is actually very big about stopping censorship. Um, yeah, he
Okay, there
is,
we go.
he ran because there we go. He ran, for office because he is tired of hearing about censorship in Japan, but he has also been talking about international, censorship. He seems to be really big against political correctness.
Which I'm all for. Thank you, Ken Akatsuma.
So there's a possibility, with him now in office, that maybe some changes could happen internationally when it comes to distributing through other countries from Japan. This, yeah, he wants to do this not just for manga, but anime, video games, and other stuff. So this could lead into maybe better contracts internationally when companies over here are trying to license from Japan.
Oh, man, I think that would be great because what was that anime that came out last year? Was it last year? Was it 2018? Oh gosh, if it was 2018, I feel old. Um, oh my gosh, that anime, Promised Neverland. I need a season
Yes.
2 redo on that. Like, what did you
Ugh.
do?
Oh, yeah, it's kinda like, what, the 2nd season of One Punch Man, but there was more of an artist issue.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it was so bad. And my brother was like, "I can't tell the difference." And I'm like, "You swine, you're uncultured."
Well, there is something else that does concern me, though, not with him. It's just a pause. Seven Seas, the employees are putting a union together.
What for? Are they not getting benefits or something? Or do you get benefits for
Well,
this?
that's one of them. That's one of them. Healthcare, paid leave, pension benefits, reproductive health care, paid time off, vacation, holidays, increased wages, and transparent increased structure. Sounds
Just
good
for
so far. Can't
translating?
blame them for that.
Don't you work at home for this
Secure employment, reasonable workloads,
I
protection
mean, the
benefits for
workloads and the crunch,
freelancers.
yeah. Like I can understand that. But like if you want all of this, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to move to Europe, okay? They already got all of that stuff.
And there's clear, defined job roles and organization charts.
Your organization is terrible? Like how bad are you guys how bad is your organization that you have okay, so we want organization as a freaking outline.
Yeah. And also training materials and onboarding, a robust scheduling and admin department. You don't have an admin department?
What the frick?
management training for management training for
Dang.
all managers and supervisors, and end-to-end exclusivity and anti-freelance contracts. But this is where things get interesting from what we've been looking at. Under the anti-harassment discrimination policies and process for submitting grievance, there's this part here. Staff should never be required to work materials that make them uncomfortable.
Like are you like I've always wondered like for like translating and stuff, do they say, "Hey you, translate this. Hey you, translate this." Or is it like, "Hey, I want to translate this. Can I translate this, please?" Or is it like both? That's something I want to know for like the workplace. But like shouldn't you know that material like stuff like this is going to exist? Like that's like saying, "Hey,
Exactly.
I want to be an actor, but I like I don't want to be on any like romantic movies." And I'm like, why? That's like, why exclude yourself from everything besides romance?
And
Even
also,
though that would
like,
totally be
you're
me.
if you're a translator and you're getting hired, shouldn't that be up to you if you want to do it or not?
Yeah, and yeah, right. That's what I was thinking, and I'm like, wait, aren't you choosing it? Like, are you saying that you're not going to research something and then you're going to do it, and then in the middle of it, you're like, whoa, that is some heavy stuff. Sorry, I want to quit right in the middle, please. Thank you.
Yeah. I think it's also kind of weird because I also wonder what else this means. What will it take to get them to work on that material? Then are they allowed to change things? Censor things?
We need context and story, please.
I know, exactly. And then I love how it's followed up by bonuses and vendor gifts.
Vendor gifts. End end of year and end of the bonuses must be rewarded to staff. What? I want a bonus every end of the year. That'd be nice. Gifts
Right?
must be sent to vendors to maintain positive relationships and show gratitude. Listen, this isn't Japan, okay? You're in America. Uh, that's like I need to see this workplace. I need pictures. I'll be one of the managers. I'm going to be supervising everybody due to my experience, and then everybody's going to hate me because of how strict I am. Well, maybe, they would have more staff if the regular translators who are actually doing a good job weren't quitting because you're not choosing their translations.
Right? Oh god, half of this stuff I wish I got. Wow. I just this is the kind of stuff, like, as a consumer, it kind of like makes you feel like you can't trust in the product. And it has nothing to do with the original manga, cuz it's got to do with the people who are translating it for our language, who are kind of taking advantage of their position and altering things, and also stuff like this. It's craziness. I don't know. And I don't think a lot of people who buy manga are aware of this. I
I
think,
I
"Oh,
wasn't
just
aware of
translate it."
this. Ooh.
This is crazy.
I'm like, all I
Increased
can do is hope
wages.
that freaking Ken does something good with his position. And I'm like, I know it seems like, it's the best of the best things because he doesn't like political correctness and
Right.
doesn't like censorship and all that stuff. But we never know. Something bad could happen. I is like
He'll find
I'm
something in his past and
something he could take advantage of. I don't know. If he adds more show, if he's like, hey, Westerners need more josei and shoujo manga being translated over there, I'm like, yes, thank you. You are a godsend. I bless you. I kiss your feet. You know. But
Ugh,
I guess we gotta wait and see what actual change happens because he just got elected, didn't he?
just did.
He
I
just
think like a
did,
month ago. I
which
think
is
it was like the same day, unfortunately, the prime minister was assassinated.
oh, that's so weird. But
I know.
honestly, this hopefully this breaks a lot of stereotype for some Japanese people. There's some older people who still think that people who like work on manga or whatever are like slackers until they become famous and then they become kiss ups and be like, hey, guy who works on manga literally became a politician and won.
Yeah.
So
I just find this interesting, and this is like, I never come to an end on this, but I just wanna, like, get your opinion, like, for people who are coming into manga, who are not aware of stuff like this, what is your suggestion for them?
uh what I do is I look up the title. um I will like look at the pictures, but I would also read about it. And usually when you write that title, a lot of times controversies would pop up, something like that. And you can look at the panels on Google Images to see translations and all that stuff. You can look up if something is has been translated pretty well by looking it up. So that's something I'm like interested in doing now. You can also look up the translators who are translating the thing to see what their record is, to see if they're good or not.
Mhm.
But honestly, because this is such a problem, you have to look it up on social media, which I think Google social media, is it? I don't know.
I've noticed, like, you were just bringing looking at translators, I've noticed there's some translators on social media who seem to be kind of doing the trend that comic book writers are doing, saying, "Oh, you don't understand, this is just how it," this is the correct translation. They get pretty defensive.
No, you don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot the name of this one who's on there, and, it got to a point, like, somebody was saying, "Here's the evidence," and then she just blocked them.
Yeah, I saw that. To me, it just means that the person defending it, they're way too lenient on the wrong things. It's like people tell me that because I watch dubs, that means I will accept all of the bad dubs. And I'm like, no, I'm still critical about them. I still
Mhm,
research Japanese when looking at it. And if I'm watching it in dub, after watching it in sub and mostly listening to the Japanese and not looking at the subtitles, then I can get a pretty good idea. If it's not bad or not as bad, then I'd be like, yeah, okay, this isn't okay. But if it's too far, that's when I'm like, okay, I can't. And just like go out.
yeah, it's kinda crazy 'cause, like, when I saw this happening, I'm just thinking, like, how do you think you're not gonna get caught? Because there are tons of people out there who are just, like, self-translating manga series, especially manga series you can't get here that or haven't been translated to English. who are like
So,
watching their every move.
oh my
I'm
gosh, that
sorry,
sounds
what?
so scary when you put it that way.
Oh, but I was like, it's kind of like you think, why do you think you're going to get away with this? Like making these changes and not have anybody call you out.
It's because they think they're doing it for the better good, quote unquote. Uh,
Hmm.
by like, hey, if we can add inclusivity, that obviously won't hurt anybody. And it was just like the whole that Funimation thing with Fruits Basket, where they change one of the dialogues to talk about the cross dresser, sorry, the cross dresser talking to Toru and saying and talking about their experience. But that experience was different even from the original 90s because they were talking in the context of them being transgender when the person will end up wearing who's a boy will end up wearing boy clothes later on because they accepted themselves as a boy. So that didn't make sense at all. And after they were called out, they reverted it back to the original. I'm not sure if it was on streaming or only on DVD or both. I wish I could find out.
Well, I think we've learned we need to do our research when it comes to the stuff and just kind of
Unfortunately.
like decide, do you really want to give your money to a company that's continuously doing this? Or do you want to find somebody who might actually respect the source material?
I will say that if you can look on Google, you can look for good and accurate translators who do manga, whether by Seven Seas or by somebody else. I don't know. I'm pretty sure there's more than one than Seven Seas, but you can look online. A lot of times it's on Reddit for good and accurate translators and what they translated. And if you're interested in that work that the good translator translates, then you can buy that book digitally or physically and have a good read with an actual good translation, which is what I recommend usually.
Well, I want to thank you for helping me out with this. I'm sure we'll be talking about this again in the future. I'm kind of hoping to talk to somebody who has more of like a business insider view on it, but we'll see if that happens. But yeah, this is like really interesting. It's
It is. I love
eye-opening.
talking about it.
Oh, and like I said, I don't think this will be the end. I think there'll be more to talk about. And I hope to have you back on so we can talk more.
Yes, I will be here at home because I have COVID.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Bianca. And everybody, do not forget to like, share, subscribe. Go ahead, comment down below. Tell me what you think about this situation. I will see you on the next video, and bye.
Bye.